welcome back to the Prosperity Playbook. You got Britt, Renee, and Courtney here, and we've just got a quickie for you today because I'm currently queen of the Man Haters Club, and I've been feeling fired up. I went to a training. I went to a women's leadership retreat recently, and there were a bunch of different trainings, and one of the topics was breaking the bias, and it was about benevolent sexism in the workplace.
I think we should back up and talk about why you're queen of the Man Haters Club really quick. Like, that was a bold statement.
Well, obviously, recently went through a big breakup, and I feel like because of that, I just have my eyes wide open, and men are annoying.
That's the short of it.
I love that. Well, we were just talking about how there are some things that, like, all the husbands do the same things. Like, why are men the way they are?
Yeah,
there just
like,
are certain traits that just tend to
TikTok
exist.
is always like, are we all married to the same man? And I'm like, I think we are, yes.
And we have not been drinking.
No, we're drinking tea today, so...
Benevolent sexism is basically like unintentional sexism that it happens without the person that is being sexist intending to be sexist. There is a study that was spoken about at this conference that I'm going to tell you about. So this was a controlled study that the class of Harvard business students from Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In did. And basically, the class was meant to consider a case study of an actual business person and comment on their impressions, perceptions, etc. of the business person. So they were all given a resume of this business person. And when they were ranking the resume, they were commenting on things like likability, competence, whether they would work with them or not, admiration, whether they would want to be mentored by this person. So for half of the students, the business person was Heidi with she, her pronouns. And for the other half of the class, it was Howard with he, him pronouns. The only part of their resume that was changed for the students was their name and their pronouns. Everything else was completely the same. They were a successful Silicon Valley venture capitalist. They were extremely business savvy. And among other things, they networked effectively, leveraged their network to make successful investments, had typical traits of what we would say would be a successful entrepreneur. Now, the wildly interesting and infuriating result was that both sets of students acknowledged that the subject had the same level of competence and skill, but they thought that Howard was an appealing colleague who they absolutely wanted to work with and be hired by. They wanted him to be a mentor for them. They thought that he was the kind of guy they could go fishing with. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Heidi, who was seen as selfish, bitchy, not the type of person you would want to work for or hire.
I hate this.
Yep. The only variable that created the difference was gender. And this wasn't like, this was a recent study that was done in the last few years. And I would say, like, we have all heard about how, sexism was in the 60s, and it has changed a lot since then, but clearly is still here, very active today, without us, I think, realizing how much it's impacting our day-to-day lives. I know that in my office, we actually, even though we're in a predominantly male field, our office is actually predominantly female. We have a few men in the office, but not very many. But even in our office, oftentimes a female will express an idea, come up with something, and will immediately be talked over, and then their idea will be presented by a male coworker as if it's their idea, and all of a sudden everybody's listening and respecting it. And what frustrates me about that is all of us women are the ones that are all of a sudden turning and respecting the male instead. And I have been really picking up on it a lot recently and trying really hard to call it out when it happens because I'm sick of it.
I think it's really good that you're calling that out, because that actually happened to me one time a couple years ago. Actually, I think might have been my very first top producer trip I was on. We did this breakout session where they split us into tables and they had us talk about like what our ideas are for recruiting more people to come to Cornerstone. And I was at a table with my area manager at the time, who I knew pretty well. And I had some really, what I thought were pretty banger ideas around this. And so I was kind of presenting some of those thoughts. And he literally would not even look at me. He would not listen to me. And he would talk to this man at the table that was saying shit that we've tried for years that doesn't work, but he literally wouldn't even look at me. He'd like glance and then look away and look back to this guy. And this was probably 5 years ago, and it haunted me. I was so damn mad, and it affected my relationship with that manager forever. And in fact, he retired last year, and we were talking at his retirement party, whatever. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. You've done so many things. He's like, I knew from the very beginning that you were going to crush it. And I was like, really? I am shocked to hear you say this because, and by the way, there were cocktails, lots of cocktails by this point. It was actually at our Christmas party is what it was. And I was like, I thought that you didn't think I would ever amount to anything because I didn't have a penis. And,
Wow.
but yeah, like I said, lots of cocktails. In fact, the next morning, my husband's like, do you know what you said to him last night? I was like, yeah, I remember. But honestly, the look on his face, he was crushed. He was like, oh my God, are you seriously? And I'll never forget that. And it's funny because he's retired now, but he comments on my social media stuff all the time. Like you can tell that he feels bad that I had that perception of him all the time, which I appreciate, by the way, but it did make me feel a little bit bad that I was like, damn it, I should have called him out on that a long time ago because that might have made a difference.
I mean, I think that's what's so important though. Like with benevolent sexism, they're doing it without knowing they're doing it. And I'm saying
Exactly.
there because this can be male or female. It can be anyone.
Sure.
But
It's happened even in real estate.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had any stories to contribute, but I remember a couple, we were looking at property years ago and we were with another male realtor and he kept talking to the husband. Well, the wife was the engineer and the breadwinner of the family and the decision maker. And oh man, it pissed her off. She was like, we're not buying that from him.
Oh, I could totally see that. I think I've told this story before, but I lost a client a couple of years ago for that. And I am very careful always about making sure I include both people and everybody's on the same page, even more so now. But this was a particular situation where the husband and I were just really good friends. We've known each other for a long time. And he had a brand new fiance that he was working with, and I didn't really know her. And I don't know if she was just kind of threatened by me or if it really was an insecurity or what it was. But she came back and was like, no, we're using my bank because you didn't make me feel important enough. You didn't include me. You only talked to him. And it crushed me because I would never do that on purpose. And it was just a situation where I knew him. We'd been talking forever. He had talked about buying a house with me long before she came into the picture. But it was a good, hard lesson for me where I was like, damn, I was not intending to. I'm the last person that would ever do that. I always make sure both people feel important. And I still did it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, something that I have been doing in the office just to like slowly combat this is I will, whenever I'm speaking to a man and a woman, I will always put her name first, like Mrs. and Mr. So-and-so. Like I will always put the female first. And
I do that on contracts sometimes.
it's my favorite. It's just like a silly little thing, but it makes me feel good. And I also, instead of introducing somebody as so-and-so's wife, I will flip it around and I'll say, this is Nikki's husband. And it's just kind of funny because I was talking to one of my best friends and she went to his Christmas party and everybody was like, oh, you're Drew's wife. And she was like, no, I'm Nikki. Like, why is my identity being his wife? Why can't I just be my own person? And obviously, they
Just
all
context.
knew her husband.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
They want to know why you're there.
Exactly. But we did have a funny conversation about that because I do think that we can get tied into roles as women. Like you're so-and-so's mom, you're so-and-so's wife. And it's like, no, damn it, I'm my own person.
Oh yeah. Or my dad was super well known. So I was Mike Zucker's daughter most of my life, like that's just a thing.
Yes. I think something else that comes to mind when I talk about this is benevolent sexism can keep you from reaching goals that you have set for yourself in weird little ways. An example is if you have a male boss or mentor or, somebody that you directly report to that is a man, they can withhold criticism out of fear of making you cry. your male boss is making the assumption that you'll be too emotional to handle criticism of any nature, or maybe he's just uncomfortable having a deeper conversation with you because you're a woman. Maybe he doesn't want to be in a one-on-one situation with you because his wife might be uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, they can't compliment you either.
Right. But the problem with that is he also doing that with your male coworkers? Because if not, you are missing out on opportunities that they are receiving. Where if your, male boss is going to your male coworker and having the hard conversations and saying, I need you to step up here, here, and here, but then he's not having that conversation with you. Well, when it comes time to earn the, promotion or the next, whatever the next step is, your male counterpart is already light years ahead of you and it wasn't your fault.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but I like that.
Yeah. Something else that happens at our office a lot that I have started reassigning is, as women, oftentimes I feel like we are expected to keep the meeting minutes, to plan the company events, to do the planning and organizing. And so I have started just reassigning those to male coworkers, and it has been very satisfying, and they're doing a great job.
Well, I think that's good. And I do think, the point is to consciously change something up a little bit so that we don't just fall into those like kind of normal gender roles. But in general, I think women are probably better planners at most things.
Yep.
Not all of us, but
My son gave me a compliment. He said, Mom, you're more of a guy than my dad.
oh, geez.
Because I had all the tools and I knew how to fix things.
Amazing. I was going to say, what's the context?
Yeah. Well, and I do think, on that note, my sister has always been like, she could build anything. Her husband is not handy at all. And my sister can build absolutely freaking anything. And it's just because she wanted to do that stuff when she was little and she just figured it out.
She gets it.
So yeah, she just built her daughter a potions table the other day and was like, I'll just build this thing. And, Molly thought that was the coolest thing in the world that she did that. So, you can empower yourself to sometimes take on those little bit non-traditional roles.
Absolutely. Well, and on that note, I think don't assume that a female is not in a role like that. Like if you walk up to a construction site, don't assume that the woman you see isn't the foreman because she very well could be. She could be
I
the
know
owner of
some
the company.
kick-ass foreman women.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a hard one to say, for women.
One of my friends is a builder, and she's been in real estate and has been a builder for a very long time. And her husband has now joined her as a builder. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, Courtney. And there are a couple of contractors or bankers that will always call the husband and not her. And he's always like, you need to call her. She knows.
Yeah.
And she's like, some of them will just always call him because they just assume that he's the one that knows it. And it's not at all. She knows all the numbers. She's the brains behind it. And I love that he's like, nah, you need to talk to her.
And she's very straightforward. She doesn't mince words.
No, she doesn't. And her name is Megan, and she's amazing. And
I love that.
Cheers, Megan.
Yep. So yeah, she's a badass.
Well,
But she's had to fight for that role too.
Absolutely. And along those lines, I think benevolent sexism can be harmful to men as well. Like, just for example, think about when a man is requesting to take time off after they have a baby. There are a lot of people that have maternity leave built in, and a lot of companies that don't have paternity built in. And there are these gender roles that we still have today that can be harmful on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think some of that is changing. I'm hearing more and more about paternity leave, which I think is a really great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
My son got 2 days.
Oh, well,
Yep.
I have a friend whose husband is a fireman. I think he commutes, so he's not in Bozeman, but he got like 3 months.
Good. Yeah, 2
They
days
do
is
that
just,
in-
at that point, why even have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was his vacation he had earned. It wasn't designated
Yeah.
paternity leave.
Yeah, that's kind of a wild situation. I mean, it takes a little bit more than
But
that.
if I was having a baby, I'd want to go to Norway and have the baby.
How
Okay.
come?
They have paternity and maternity leave, and their hospital is like a 5-star resort.
Perfect. There
That
you go.
sounds magical.
Yeah.
Well, my husband owns a construction type business. He owns a landscaping business, and he loves having a couple of women on his crew. He says it always makes everybody work harder. They always are the ones that are detailed. They show up on time. They're not afraid to grab a shovel and get it done. It's like they almost are
Proving
not his
something.
words, but my words are that they are proving something. It's how it was when I used to help him. I would make damn sure I could outwork any one of those boys, and then I would die at the end of the day because I really probably shouldn't have been. But I think you do sometimes go overboard to prove that you can hang.
Absolutely.
But you grew up on a ranch too.
I did. I've been a farm kid my whole life, and it didn't matter if you were male or female. Not at my house anyway. I think my mom worked every bit as hard. My mom probably worked a lot harder than my stepdad ever did. And not saying he didn't, but my mom did everything and still was in charge of getting the kids everywhere and made every meal and cooked everything and like literally did everything.
We wear a lot of hats as women.
We do.
So talking about sexism in the workplace, how are some ways that you can beat it? How are ways that you can start making changes or even just recognizing that it's happening?
Just do what you've been doing.
Right, exactly. Just sneaky little things.
I love the sneaky little things. I think that's really important. Something that's happened to me multiple times is like, I'll have a conversation with somebody and it'll make it out that like, I'm this horrible person or I'm a bitch or I'm terrible to work for. My boss who's a man can say the same thing and it will come across like he just said the nicest thing in the world to you. And like, granted, he has like this 80s DJ voice or something, FM radio. Like it definitely, like there's a thing for sure. But I know that there's a part of it that just because if you are a strong woman that's standing up for yourself and having high expectations, it's a different connotation than a man. And that I don't know how you fix that other than you just keep doing it anyway. And the people that are going to look down on you for that are not your people. And you just kind of keep going with it. But I think one of the main issues that comes up is wages. So I think a lot of times we've seen that before. We talked about that on an episode with Jill back in the beginning on Knowing Your Worth, where women are statistically underpaid compared to men in the exact same role. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think in most cases, the manager or the business owner is not choosing to pay women less, but I really do think women as a whole are not good at asking for what we want. I think we are not good at saying, I want a raise. I want a promotion. I deserve a raise. I deserve a promotion. We just want somebody to see us and offer it to us without us asking, because that's just who we are. And
I also
men
think
don't do that.
Not even talking about money, but talking about roles. I was in the gym. I'm a volleyball coach. I'm taking a year off right now, which is great, but I've been a volleyball coach for many years. And I was in the gym with a bunch of coaches and this guy walked in and was coaching a team and we got to talking. And basically this guy played basketball in middle school, never played again, never coached, had no experience. And he was coaching a varsity level team because he just was like, yeah, I played basketball once. I have experience. And this
crazy
gal that was in the gym had played basketball her entire life. She played Junior Olympics. She had coached right out of high school. She was coaching when she was in college and she didn't think that she was qualified for the job. And then there's this dipshit that walked around the corner that was just like, wow, yeah, I'm qualified. And he got the job because he applied for the job and she didn't.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot where women assume that we have to be 100% qualified, 100% ready. We have to know everything before we're going to apply. And men will just assume they're going to figure it out. Yep. They're going to learn on the job. They're going to shoot for the stars. And I do think women could take a little note on that. Yeah. Also, men should not oversell what they can do. I've definitely had that happen by both men and women, though, where I hired somebody. I'm like, yeah, you actually can't at all do what you said you were going to do for me. But nonetheless, I digress on that one. So I do think just having some confidence. If you don't have confidence in yourself, nobody else is going to have confidence in you. So you have to ask for the thing that you want, whether that's a promotion, whether that's a certain wage. And sometimes the very beginning is the best time to ask for that. So negotiating your salary up front, or at review time or whatever that is. If you just crushed it and had a killer month or did something great, like wherever you're feeling your most confident, wherever you're feeling the most momentum, that's a great time to go in and ask for what you need. I had a really good friend of mine at Cornerstone a couple years ago that I got on a call with her and I was like, man, I really think I need another assistant, but I don't think I can justify it. And she was like, Renee, I close less volume than you, and I have 5. You have 1. I was like,
You're
what?
like, well, shit, when you put it that way.
I didn't know. She's like, you got to learn how to ask for what you want. And I was like, holy shit, she's right. And lo and behold, I asked for it. And they're like, of course you can have another assistant. And I was
You're like,
like,
we've been waiting for you to ask that question.
Well, that reminds me of that story you told us about your husband's business too, and you had to explain to him he needed to give one of his female employees a raise.
oh, yes, I forgot about that. And again, so very benevolent sexism on this. My husband would never choose to pay his female employees less because they're probably worth more than some of his other newer ones. But I remember asking him one time, like, who makes this and who makes this? And he's like, well, I got to give this person a raise and I got to give this person a raise. And I'm like, wait, what about the girls? And he's like, well, they're not bugging me about it. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. If you're giving the other guys raises, you give it to them too. And he just truly had never thought about it. He was like, oh yeah, I probably should do that. Like, no shit.
Yeah.
Why isn't that common sense? I don't know, because they're business owners and they want to make money and they're just trying to keep everybody happy. And if somebody appears to be happy, you're going to assume they're happy and they don't need anything else.
So y'all need to see us. See the women in your workforce.
Absolutely. I mean, I think along those lines too, like lifting up and empowering the women around you as a woman in the workplace is super important,
Yes.
especially like if you are comfortable going in and asking for the raise and you do see some of the benevolent sexism happening around you, use your voice, because some of both the men and women around you probably don't even see that it's happening. Like Josh, like if he wouldn't have had Renee as a bug in his ear, he wouldn't have known to do that. So use your voice when you have one, and help educate others, engage in conversations that promote awareness around sexism and its negative consequences, and encourage discussions around gender equality in your team meetings.
Yeah. On that note, I sit on a nonprofit board, and every year when it comes up for the executive director's like raise and bonus and whatever, she's always like, I don't need anything this year. Like I already make too much. And I'm like, bullshit, give her a raise, give her a big ass bonus, because we couldn't do any of this without her. If we had to start from scratch, like it would cost us substantially more and none of us could do anything. Like if she gets hit by a bus, we are screwed.
Yeah.
So keep her happy. And every year she's like, I can't believe she always tells me, she's like, I always hear you fight for me in the board meeting. I'm like, hell yes, I do. But you need to stand up for it. And like, Court,
So
you
what
just
does
said,
that look like when you go in to ask for a raise as a female?
Well,
Don't get emotional.
no, I don't think it has to be emotional, but I think it can be as simple as just saying like, hey, this is what I've done over the past year and this is what I want. When I went in to ask for that other assistant, I was kind of like, okay, here's the deal. I think I can justify having another assistant, and I'll take a 5 basis points reduction in my pay for 3 months while we hire this person, get them trained up, and then when my volume goes to whatever next level, I want that 5 basis points back, which I just took back, by the way. But they weren't just going to automatically give it back to me unless I went and said, hey, give that back. But I think it's hard, but I think you have to know what is important to you. And that might be vacation time. That might be, it might be wages. It might be bonus. It might be commission. It might be a new title. It might be a promotion. So you have to figure out what really and truly is important to you and go with that. I think for me, I chose a career where nobody really chooses how much I make. Like this is here, you have this is your standard thing. And I can make as much as I want. There's no cap on my salary. I can just keep closing more loans and I'll just make more money.
Hire more assistants.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, if you go in calm, collected, professional, and you prepare ahead of time to know the worth that you bring, I think that's the most important thing, is to like, you're basically selling yourself to somebody,
Well, and sometimes I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but sometimes you have to look around a little bit. So I have zero intention of leaving my current company, but I get recruiting calls daily. And I always will listen to them at least a little bit, because it does make me feel like, dang, I've got options to go elsewhere. I'm in demand. I know I can go make this much money if I go there. Or I just turned down a crazy 6-figure signing bonus for another company because I didn't want to work for the guy. The president of the company was an asshole. And I knew it was like, you can't pay me enough to go work for that guy. But it's a good ego boost. So it took me like, oh, dang, I got this. So it gave me the confidence to go back to my boss and say, hey, I want those basis points back. I just turned this down.
But you can also write down what they complimented you on so that you have that information for your bad days or if you need to negotiate something.
You bet. You have a bad day, just talk to a recruiter for a while. They'll tell you all the good things you did last year.
Love it. Well, I think that's really all I had. Thanks for letting me hate on men for a few minutes. Really needed to get that out of my system.
I love it. And I think I just want to recap by saying, Courtney, you said, start seeing us women. I think it's the opposite. I think we have to start standing up for ourselves. Nobody's coming for us. We can't count on all of the employers out there to see us.
They need to be trained too, though.
They do. If you're an employer and you can do that, that's awesome. But you can't count on somebody looking
Saving
for
you.
that and making that happen for you. We have to make our own things happen. Like there's this thing about making your own luck. You could say, you're so lucky you just got a raise. Or did you make your own luck by asking for a raise? And here's the thing. If they tell you no, then the next thing you ask is, okay, what would it take for me to get there? And you get the roadmap from them. Mm-hmm. And then when you've done those things, if they tell you no, they have no reason to tell you no, and you go find another job.
That was good advice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need that direction because they aren't in sales. They don't know how to sell themselves. And they just need that map, like you said, to know how to go in and ask for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I grew up where you're supposed to be humble. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to be proud of yourself.
I grew up in the South. It was even worse than that.
And it's like, I'm always trying to teach my daughter, like, be proud of yourself. You should have confidence. And it's kind of like undoing whatever I grew up with, but it's hard to sometimes say good things about yourself, but you should do it more.
Like you would treat your best friend. Like speak nicely to yourself and stand up for yourself the way that you would stand up for your best friend. And, like in the workplace, I think that we can stand up for each other more easily than we seem to be able to stand up for ourselves. Like one of my coworkers, when she was hired, I don't even remember what happened, but somebody was like, "Oh, thank God we needed a mom around here." And I was like, "I don't know about that, but we did need a badass sales agent and we got one." And he just kind of was like, whoa. And, I think even just like immediately calling it out when it happens can create more awareness. It can empower the women that are in your tribe. And it starts with you. If you empower the person next to you and she empowers you, like that's where it starts.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And on the flip side of that, don't be the bitch that's dragging other people down. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many people that feel bad about themselves. And so they want to be the one they're like picking on somebody else or like this person didn't do that. Let me tell you, that is not the way to get the raise, is to talk shit about your coworker or somebody else that is in for it. Like I've had team members do that, just bitch about each other constantly. And I'm like, which one of you is the problem? It's probably both of you. Like just stop.
So just passing the problem back and forth between
literally. So don't be the one that's trying to tear somebody else down to get ahead. There is too much of that out there. I have no patience for that shit. I have been the victim of that so many damn times. Again, you can only count on yourself, but if you can be the one to pull somebody else up with you, it doesn't hurt anything. It will make you feel really damn good.
Yeah. Be a girl's girl.
Yeah.
Or a guy's guy.
No more complaining.
Well, thanks for tuning in with us. We appreciate you all. Share this with a friend if it was beneficial. And if you're also part of the Man Haters Club, welcome. We are accepting all applicants.
Wow. Okay. Sorry for any guys that made it this far on the call. We do love you, but we just need you to do a little bit better for us.
Yeah. You can join the club too. If you're on our side, we'll take you.
Remember, I got to hang out with 7 guys this past week. I was the only girl.
Yeah, and you had a great time.
I had a great time.
Yeah,
I was one of the guys. It was awesome.
Less drama. I saw a thing earlier that they were talking about, like, women are very supportive of each other in that we always are like listening to each other's feelings. We always know what's going on, but that's not always exactly what you need. Like sometimes you just wallow in it. Men, like, the 2 guys could be golfing and one of them could have just gotten divorced and you will maybe find out nothing about that.
2 of these guys just got divorced.
Oh, there you go.
And the other one's wives were back home and they all were like, "I wish my wife was here."
Which I love that. I'm shocked by that, but I absolutely love that. But I do think like guys just don't dig in as deep. If you're a guy and you're having a rough day at work, you probably are not going to like call your friends on the way home, but women do that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we have to be able to give each other a little kick in the pants sometimes too and be like, "Okay, here's your tough love. You need this too. You need to step up. Nope, you can't. Don't let yourself get walked on."
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. 100%. Yeah, women can go get coffee with each other and we come home and we know what's going on with their kids and their husband and their job and their health, and men will spend an entire weekend together and we'll ask them, how's his wife? How's his dog? How's his job? And they're like,
I don't know.
What did you talk about?
Nothing. Music and sports.
Beer.
Well, thanks. I hope you guys have an awesome day. We appreciate you for tuning in. Here's to empowering each other one story at a time.